You are listening to Insights with Kathleen. Please join me while I share my insights and experiences with the hope to inspire you to look inside of yourself for the answers that you already have. As with all information we receive, take what speaks to you and leave the rest.
Hey, welcome back again.
What's up, everyone?
And again.
And again, and again.
We're so glad to have you here.
Right, thanks for stopping on by in our lovely corner or room.
Yeah. Or this place.
Or this planet.
Yeah, it's our building, our place, our room.
Yes.
But who knows where you are?
That's true, and if we did, that would be a little creepy.
Maybe just a little bit.
Just a little bit. A little bit.
Hey, Cher.
Hey, Kathleen, what's up?
What are we talking about today?
What are we talking about today? So I feel like I had this experience the other day, and I was telling you a little bit about it, about how I was listening to a song, and I just got all these emotions stirred up inside of me. Mm-hmm. And I realized the song was kind of like someone talking about a past relationship type thing and how it ended like maybe poorly.
Okay.
And I suppressed it for a bit. I was like, I just hate this song. This song just isn't good. But then I looked within myself and I was like, oh, there are things in past relationships that I'm still like kind of upset about. And I was like surprised because I was like, they're so long ago. So my question to you is, how do I resolve that and like move forward with it? You know what I mean?
I think I do. I think I understand what you're saying is, and I'm just going to recap.
For sure. Yeah, please.
Let me know if I'm getting this right.
Mm.
Or correct me if I'm not. Because that's welcome too. So if I'm hearing you that you feel like that there are aspects of healing that needs to happen within inside of you due to like other previous relationships, right? So like there's still remnants of this previous relationship inside of you that you haven't fully reconciled with.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So first I want to acknowledge that when we have those pieces inside of us, it's not practical or even advisable to try to go back to that person to make any kind of reconciliation, especially if it's an old one, then that person's out of your life, right?
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah. So and this could really even apply to people who are currently that are still sort of in your life, but there's aspects of that relationship. Maybe there's a old hurt inside of you, and maybe you kind of thought you had reconciled it, but that hurt is still kind of bubbling up, right? So it may have more to do with you than necessarily the relationship, but maybe the relationship was a way to put a spotlight on it. So it's not like this one easy, clean answer, right?
For sure.
Because it's a journey.
Yes.
It's a journey to self-discovery. It's a journey to self-healing.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that it has to be a forever journey either.
Right.
But it could be.
If you want it to be, I guess.
Well, if you want it to be, or depending on if you give it time to nurture it, or depending on how long you've been trying to suppress it.
Right.
You know, and maybe this one relationship that you feel like these feels are coming from.
Right.
Or let me see, I said that wrong. So these feels that you're having, you feel like even though this song or this event has triggered them.
Right.
But it brings back a memory from an old relationship, which then can make you feel like, oh, that's what I need to reconcile from.
Right.
But maybe a person needs to go deeper to say, but is it really just there, or is it something that keeps coming up over and over again? Is it something that comes from my childhood? Is it something that comes from a different relationship? Are there aspects from all these other relationships that seem to keep repeating?
Right.
But just slightly different?
For sure. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Because I know for me, in my experience with like this person, I didn't even date this person, but someone was just kind of stringing me along, and I allowed that to happen for like 2 years, right? So now that you're saying that with the whole childhood piece and the emotional unavailability, I can see that in my childhood in some aspects with some family members.
Yeah. And, I like how you said that, like, well, I allowed them to string me along. But, when we're being strung along, we don't realize that we're allowing it.
That's fair. And thanks for the validation, because, sometimes you get advice from maybe some friends and they're like, well, that was kind of all your fault. And then you feel bad and then you judge it. But I mean, that's also very true as well.
Yeah, and I think that it comes back to, I just want to hit on that part where we want to place blame as well, right?
Right.
So even while somebody, you feel like someone's stringing you along, like you're going along for the ride, right? But that person still has a part in it.
Right.
It's not all on you for being allowed to be strung along.
Right.
That person is obviously doing something that entices you to be strung along.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, just about any relationship where you have more than one person, each party has a piece in it.
That's fair. Yeah, no, that's true.
So like even when you look at, and I know we've brought this up before, when you look at couples who are together and there is a partner cheating on the other partner,
Right.
you know, right away we all want to go and put the sympathy on the partner that's being cheated on.
Yeah.
But little do we know
Oh.
that person had just as much to do with their partner cheating on them as the partner did.
Can you elaborate on that for me?
So a lot of times in relationships, the dynamics that are happening within the relationship, right, could be of such a way that someone's needs are not being fully met.
Right.
So then the partner will step out. The partner whose needs are not being met is the one who usually steps out on the other one.
Right.
You know, because now they're finding somebody else who fulfills that need.
Right.
You know, though we want to put all the sympathy on the one who's been stepped out on.
Right.
But upon closer examination, if we were really to see with inside that relationship, we would find that there's this level of dysfunction.
Right.
And that
yeah.
person who is being stepped out on is probably the catalyst for a lot of what is happening. I'm not going to say always.
Right.
Because every relationship's different.
For sure, yes.
And there's different reasons for why people could step out.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
now if it's a habitual stepping out, well, then obviously that person who's stepping out has some really big, deep-seated issues that they need to resolve. But that's not for us to judge or to do, right?
Yeah.
Or to point out. I mean, it's just to give you an example and just to set some groundwork that we could all be so very quick to judge a lot of things.
Right. No, that's
much
fair.
like coming back to what you were saying about, you know, the stringing along.
Right.
So it's not just that you weren't, because you're real quick to say, well, I allowed that, you know, and some of that's about being self-aware, right?
Right.
To realize, oh, you know what? I am allowing that to happen. And, oh, you know what? I love myself better than that.
Right.
Right. And that's a journey to get even there.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, you know, you can't just take all of that upon yourself because this individual, you're partnering with them.
Yes.
They're doing something
Yes.
to give you some element of hope
Right.
that maybe there was just maybe, Sherry, there's a chance that you could be with me. Just maybe. Just keep following me because you know, I just might change my mind. Or here, I'm just gonna bat my eyes at you, Sherry, because I want you to keep following me because this boosts my ego like you don't know.
Wow, verbatim. It's like she was there, guys. God.
So, you know, with anything, it really is a journey. It's not meant to be like snap your fingers and the work's done. Right. This is about really being in touch with your own feelings.
Right.
And I love that a song was able to bubble that up for you. I mean, for me personally, I loved using music that way.
It is nice. It's a good tool for that, honestly.
It is. And then sometimes, like even today, sometimes there's like, you know, I just feel like I have these emotions in me and I just need to get them out. And I will purposefully pick certain songs to bring those emotions out.
That's really smart. I use it the opposite way of escapism. And I'm like, wow, it could be very cathartic being like, I'm sad and this is a relationship. This is like a song that relates to me in that way. And like, just feel your feels. Don't be afraid.
Yeah. And sometimes when, you know, we've talked about this too on the podcast about dating yourself, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So sometimes it's like, you know what? Why can't I put on a romantic song and sing this song for me? Just, you know, I could just pretend like it's me and me, you know, and why not have a little love fest with me? Why not use that as a tool to help work through some of the emotion, so that the emotion, so you're purging an emotion out of you, and instead of suppressing it, you're bubbling it up.
Right.
Because when we suppress things, then we cause a dis-ease within inside of our body, which also equals disease, right?
You are clever.
Not really. I mean, this goes around. You'll hear it in many places, right?
Right.
But it's true.
Right.
You know, when we are at dis-ease,
Right. Yeah.
we can make ourselves sick.
Yes.
Because all that we're doing is suppressing, and it's got to come out somehow. And if we're not going to deal with it on an emotional level and deal with it, you know, and bring it up and out here, then our body's going to react to that, and then our body's going to feel the burden of having to work through it.
Right.
And then that's how we end up getting sick.
That makes a lot of sense, because I know for me, I used to suppress my emotions a lot in high school. And I would get massive migraines like 4 times a week. Went to all the doctors. Nobody knew why. There was like a couple of things. But after I was able to, like, you know, be comfortable with my emotions and let them happen, I'm like, wow, my migraines don't happen as much. I'm not a doctor. This is a disclaimer. This is just for me.
Yeah, well, that is true for the whole show, right?
Right.
We're not psychologists. We're not doctors.
Right.
We're just people who have some insight to life.
Yeah.
But I do think, though, like whether it's music or running for some people or doing something physical for others, it helps bubble certain things or helps them to work through certain things.
Right.
Allow that. Give that gift to yourself. But do be conscientious of the fact when these things are bubbling up, take the time to investigate. All right, what is this? Do I feel like I'm lacking something? Am I judging myself? Am I embracing all of who I am? You know? And then, if a song bubbles up in an emotion, much in your case,
Right.
which then also bubbled up a picture of somebody or a specific happening or relationship, okay, that's great. Because now you can go and you can dive in and say, okay, what was it about that? Because really, relationships are really for us.
Right.
Like, even though we have another person that's relating with us, that person's in that relationship for them,
Yeah.
for their growth,
Right.
for their
Right.
and it sounds terrible, but it's for their gain, much like it's for your gain. And the idea is that if we're each showing up as fully as ourselves, and we're each giving the other what we believe the other needs,
Right.
then everybody is being fulfilled,
Yeah, that makes sense.
right?
Yeah.
So, but what happens is sometimes two people will come together in a relationship. One's giving, the other one's not.
I've done that.
Yeah. So then there's that discord that happens, right? Because your needs aren't being met. If you're the
Right.
one who's doing all the giving, but you're not receiving,
Yeah.
then, you know, then that needs to be examined.
Right.
And then we need to love ourselves enough to say, hey, wait a minute. I have this need. I need to recognize that I have this need.
Right.
I need to love me enough to say, hey, partner, I have this need. Are you willing to fulfill this need that I have? I fulfilled the need that you have.
Right.
And then in loving yourself and receiving that answer,
Why are you giggling?
because I know somebody right now who wants to be with this partner so much, their needs not being fully,
Right.
you know, met.
Yeah.
But because of the fear of losing the relationship, they won't stand in their
Right.
power and say, hey, partner, hello.
Hello.
Or hell no. You know, you're not meeting my needs here.
Right.
You're manipulating me,
Yeah.
but you're not meeting my needs.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right. So it's daring to step out of the fear of the loss, because you've already lost.
Yeah, that's a very good point actually that you make.
Yeah.
Of the loss. Yeah, because, you know, I just know some people that I've met throughout the years of, like, they stay with this person and it's not the best, but they're like, well, I don't want to start over, or I can't build this with somebody else. And then they think within staying, it's like, well, I'm still gaining, but it's like, well, I mean, no, technically.
Right. Because you're surrendering to fear.
Right.
And then you're surrendering to lack.
Right. That's a big thing.
Because by surrendering to fear and believing that, well, I don't want to let go of this because I just may never get or have another or find another. That's lack. Yeah. This world's a lot bigger than you think, and there's a whole lot more people out there. And trust me when I tell you, once you figure out you and who you are and what your needs are and what it is that you would love to see in another person, as well as what do you have to offer another person, right? And once you see that, like, where is, your moral standards? What are their standards for you to be in a relationship? And my tongue is just like tripping all over me right now. But once you determine that, hey, I like this. I like me when I'm here. I like me when I'm doing these things, right? I like to relate to people of this caliber or with these interests or who think like me, or what does it look like? I know for myself, it has taken me many a year to figure it out. Like, well, somebody who likes me. Well, okay, but is that really enough? Well, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
No, it's not enough.
Well, no, it's not enough. But yeah, I know for me personally, speaking on experience, I am a gay woman. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
And the biggest thing that I would get is from people, people in the LGBT community, is that, well, there's not a lot of lesbians around here, so it's slim pickings. And that's like the old programming I'd get in my head. So whenever I meet anyone who is interested in the same sex as me, it's like, well, I got to hold on to this because this is the only one available in my town. So, yeah.
Yeah. And, it's funny because Sherry and I have talked about this before, where she shared that view, and I told her, I said, hey, Sherry, it's no different on the other side.
There's,
this whole heterosexual thing too, there's a lot of that lack thinking as well.
Right.
And it's not true. It's only true if you want to make it true.
Right. And that would make sense because I would be with a group of people and they're like, there's not enough. And I would start thinking that way. But then I would, surround myself with other people that are like, the world's your oyster. Mm-hmm. Every day's an adventure. Mm-hmm. Yay.
Yeah. And, when we are in those places of thought where we believe that there is no nice guys, there are no nice gay girls, there are no whatever, well, then that's what the world's going to deliver to you.
That's very, very true.
Because you know what? The universe thinks that that's what you want. So change your dialogue. Highly recommended. And you know what? Don't be afraid to be alone with you.
Right.
Because ultimately, at the end of the day, that's who you're with. Whether you're with a partner, whether there's a partner present or not, it's still ultimately you.
Yeah, that's very true.
And it's about your perception of things.
Yes, that's a big one.
And anybody who's been in long-term relationships and you remember back in the very beginning of that relationship, that excitement of that first new love and that crush, and they're called rose-colored glasses for a reason, right? So you have this perception and the world is all right and the world is all great, and then as you get closer and closer and get to know this person more and more, the glass color starts to change.
Yes. No, that's very true.
Right?
And then told me that.
and then like if the relationship breaks up, well, we are crystal clear now.
Yes, at least we know now.
And maybe a little bit of mud on there. Right. Who knows? The thing is that you always want to go in eyes wide open. It doesn't mean you can't have rose-colored glasses, but just know that, hey, before I fully go all in, let's see. Let's have fun with the rose-colored stuff, like, because it's fun. Let's face it, that stuff's fun.
It is kind of fun.
It's a lot of fun. And you enjoy that moment, whether that really turns to be a relationship or just a crush, enjoy it. That's part of being human, having those feelings, and they can be fun. I know for myself, I get really impatient with the rose-colored glass part because I really want to get to, who are you really? I was like, wait, no, come on. Can we hurry this up? Because I really want to get to know who you really are before I really invest all of me. Sometimes that's where I can be. I'm not saying that that's a good place.
I'm like the opposite. I'm like, I live in rose-colored glasses land, and I'm just like, everything's all magical. So it takes me a while to be like, oh, actually, there's some stuff that would not gel well with my personality.
Right. And again, I'm not saying that rose-colored, there's anything wrong with that.
No,
because it's really fun. But when we know ourselves really well,
right,
and we stand into the power of who we be,
mm-hmm.
then we don't get so carried away with rose-colored glasses.
Right.
We can still have the fun of them.
Yeah.
But we can really see what the reality is. And then as soon as reality starts setting in and we have like our spidey senses going, right? And we're watching for the red flags. Not that I encourage you to do nothing but watch for red flags. That's not what I'm saying.
You're just going to be anxious the whole time and not enjoy it.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you flow with it. But if something comes up and it doesn't feel quite right,
yeah,
pay attention.
Yeah.
You know, because that's part of the journey too. It's an experience to have. But coming back to what you originally were asking with, you know, how do you reconcile that with inside of you?
Right.
You know, journaling is another good way.
Ooh, that is nice.
Yeah, so like whether it's music that bubbles it up or just maybe sometimes reading a book. Sometimes reading a book, I can get lost in a book and be stuck on the same page because now my mind is taking me to a whole nother story, you know? Yeah. And then it gives you an opportunity to come back and re-examine things and just know that you have that power within you to reconcile it. You don't always need the other person to do that.
Yeah.
That's something that we need to do with inside of ourselves because it's something inside of ourselves that needs healing.
Right.
It's not necessarily like especially if this is a person that has long gone or you've separated from that's no longer part of your life. Mm-hmm. You don't want to call them on the phone, or you should. I don't recommend that you call them on the phone.
I don't recommend that either. Actually.
Oh, by the way, I was listening to this song and I was thinking of you, and I thought, oh, I should call you.
I feel like, can I just say, I feel like in romantic comedies, and just television, I feel like they're like, oh, I saw this old paper, and I'm like, I have to call my ex, and then they fly out, and all that grandiosity. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing that.
No, because it's not necessary.
It's not, no.
Because really, it's the self journey. It's a journey of self.
Yeah.
And it's the journey that you want to take with inside of you to figure out, okay, where is my hurt?
Right.
How can I give myself this hug? How can I reaffirm me to say, hey, I'm okay.
Right.
So one of my mantras that I loved and I hung on to for for a really long time is those deserve statements. I deserve, right? So I deserve to be loved for all that I am. Mm-hmm. That's a big one.
That is a very big one.
Because, when I really was latched onto that particular one, it made me cry because those are hard words to say sometimes because of the way that the world around us, the way that society teaches us that we can't think kindly of ourselves.
Right.
Or because you're so conceited.
Right.
Yeah,
right. That's a big one.
But that's not the truth.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is in order for us to love others, we have to really embrace and love ourselves.
Right.
And we have to believe we deserve to be loved because we do. Each and every one of us deserve to be loved for all that we are.
You hear that, guys?
For all that we are. My daughter has been watching this series on Netflix, Lucifer.
Okay.
And what I do admire about it is that, you have this character, Chloe, and you have Lucifer, and Lucifer's just kind of crazy and does all these like crazy things. Mm. And for a while, Chloe's clueless about who he really is. But even amongst all the crazy shenanigans that this character, Lucifer, does,
right,
Chloe still accepts and loves him for all that he is. So even in his own personal journey within the show, now mind you, this is all fictional crap.
What?
But it makes for a good conversation. So like when my daughter is looking and watching these things, I'll first remind her, you do know that this is fictional, right? The people wrote this.
Right. People wrote that.
But if we're going to go with this storyline, we can draw similarities, right? So we can take that. And what I love about it is because Chloe's heart is so big that she just loves him for all that he is.
Right.
He doesn't love himself for all that he is.
Oh.
So it makes it hard for him to receive that from her.
Right.
So if we're going to receive love from someone else, we need to first start with ourselves.
Yes, that's a big one.
So in real life, I've watched my own father struggle with feeling love because he doesn't love himself.
Oh.
No, and it's sad. I've watched my mom struggle for many a year before she passed away. I've watched her struggle with trying to show him how much she loves him, and it didn't matter what she did.
Right.
He was never going to receive it because he didn't receive it for himself first.
That's a big one, actually. I get that because I remember when we first became friends, and you would give me like these compliments, and they were very genuine compliments, but like I was like, no, I'm not that great. Don't compliment me. I'm not that great. So I would kind of do the whole like, oh yeah, thank you. Or I would kind of throw it back and be like, but you're so awesome. So that took me a bit to just receive that. So that makes a lot of sense what you're saying.
Yeah. So I deserve to be loved for all that I am. I can be loved for all that I am. I am loved for all that I am. I am so grateful to be loved for all that I am. And I'll tell you, when you feel like you don't really love yourself or you don't think that you're that great, that's a beautiful mantra to say to yourself over and over again. And for your own little human ears to hear it out loud. So if you can just whisper it to yourself, say it to yourself 3, 4, 5 times a day, and remind yourself, you really do deserve it. We all do. You know, and I think that if each and every one of us took that time to really fully embrace the all that we are, that we each are, like ourselves, then it opens us up for receiving. And also it opens us up to seeing the truth in what all is.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love these mantras. I'm going to be saying them to myself before bed. Those are great.
Well, so was this helpful, Cherry?
Very abundantly so. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And for anyone listening, if you'd like more clarity, you want it teased out a little bit more, please do drop us a note on our website, which we'll have linked.
Yes.
In the box for this particular podcast. And basically now for any of them in season 2, we have that. So, you know, be sure to drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes, that would be great. And I will put the mantras in the summary in the show notes so you guys could, you know, check that out.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for joining us. Have a good night.
Thank you for tuning in. Remember that you are bigger than anything that you're going through or anything that is happening around you.